All right, welcome everybody to the 7th episode of the Den Discussions. Today I'm joined by head men's basketball coach Phil Mathews. Phil, I appreciate you being here with me.
You're welcome.
And before we start this meeting, a little plug for our sponsor, the Putt Cup. It improves your short game. It's a full-size coffee mug. You lay it on the ground. It's got a flat edge surface. You can see it right there. So finish your cup of joe and lay it on the ground and sink a putt. Phil, I don't know if you need one of these because last time I saw you pick up a putter was, I think, the Tigerbacker golf tournament a year ago. You took one putt and you drained like a 25-footer. It was so impressive.
And I haven't picked it up since.
Ended on a high note.
That's right.
All right, Phil, we'll start this off. Just introduce yourself and tell us about your time at RCC so far.
I'm Philip Mathews. I'm the head men's basketball coach at Riverside City College. I'm a native of Riverside. I went to John W. North High School back in the day. We were the first 3-year graduating class, from 10th to 12th grade. We were the first ones who graduated in 1968. And then I went to RCC for 2 years. So I'm just a Riverside native, and being back at Riverside is something that, if you're from Riverside, you're always going to come back. I was just very fortunate to be able to go to Riverside City College and to continue my career.
Perfect. Well, let's start on that topic. You started at RCC, and obviously you left and you've been many places. We'll get into those places a little bit later, but how has RCC changed from when you went to school here versus how it is right now?
Well, when I went there, one of the biggest changes to me is my work study job was moving the archery sets back in the Huntley gym. We don't even have an archery field anymore. It's changed buildings, teachers, professors, the attitude, diversity. It's when I went back in the 60s, it wasn't as diverse as it is now. It's really diverse. Riverside City College is really a diverse campus now. It wasn't like that when I went there in 1968. The campus has changed immensely, from the Chuck King building, the new Wheelock field, the new football field. Played football at the same spot, but it's got a new turf. We had regular grass then. Cutter pool. We swam in the old pool. That's the new pool now. The only thing that's the same is Huntley Gym. That hasn't changed. That's still the same. So, but everything else, the old building where the new Kane building, the old building was where everything was, the financial aids, the counseling, but all that's changed. So, and it's changed for the better though.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're in one of the newest buildings in Wheelock. You've had some success in there. You've been here for a long time. In this past season, you led a young squad, pretty much all true freshmen, to the 3C2A state championships for the first time since 2009. You guys had a record of 21-9, 14-2 in conference, co-champions with Santiago Canyon. Talk a little bit about that team and how you were able to lead such a young squad to the state championship tournament.
Well, Nico, we always thought that we were pretty talented, but we were very, very young. And so, we were going through growing pains at the start of the season. We started off 5-7, but, a gauge was that nobody ever blew us out. We were always in every game. Although we were 5-7, we were in every game. And they were young. So, and I knew that I had to bring them along and keep them engaged and not have them lose confidence. And once we got into the league, they took off. And once that young team knew that they were good, then the sky was the limit. And, we ran off, I think it was 11 straight, won 14 out of 16. And once we got to the playoffs, I knew that we had a a legit chance to go to the Elite Eight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you guys, I mean, you ran through, Citrus the first round, and then you got your revenge against Santa Monica to seal that bid. And the previous year, Santa Monica clipped you at home. Talk about that game. I know that those ties run deep at Santa Monica, and you guys are looking forward to playing them again. And you reign supreme. Talk about that game and what it meant to beat that team and then eventually go. And
well, the previous 2 years, Nico, we had lost in the regional finals. We lost to San Diego City, the eventual state champion down there. Then we came back and, Santa Monica was coached by a former assistant coach of mine at Santa Monica, and we were favored to win that game. And they came in with a good game plan, and they were a hot team because they had just got through beating East LA, who was the number 1 ranked team. And they beat us for the right to go to the Elite Eight. So this past year, and they had a talented team, but the revenge factor was there, and our guys kind of knew the history, and they went in and played in an outstanding game in some trying circumstances. When we got there, the floor was wet, the floor was slippery, and we had this, we were contemplating on whether we were going to play or not. But we decided to play, and luckily we did because our team played well.
Without a doubt, yeah. And Phil, you're no stranger to the state championship tournament. Before RCC, you were a staple at Ventura College. You won, I think, 11 consecutive Foothill Conference titles. You're a fantastic coach at San Bernardino Valley College, but you really made your mark at Ventura College at the 2-year level. Describe your time there. How is it different than RCC and SBVC, and why Ventura College at that time?
Well, Ventura College, when I went there in 1985, I was a 4-year at Cal State Fulton for 4 years as a Division I assistant. And when that job came open, they were looking for a person of color. And at Ventura College, I was the first coach of color to be hired at Ventura College back in 1985. So that was a challenge, but at Ventura College, I was welcomed with open arms because they had a history of winning, but they'd fallen on hard times, and they wanted to break that diversity barrier. And I happened to have the right credentials, the right pedigree, the right experience, and so we went there. But Ventura is a lot like Riverside City College. It's one of the only junior colleges in the community. Riverside, same way. Riverside, if you live in Riverside, you went to Riverside City College. If you lived in Ventura, you went to Ventura College. So, I got lucky. I got a couple great players from the start, Cedric Sabalos, Pookie Wigginton, and when you have great players, you're a great coach. When you don't have good players, you're not so good. So I had great players for 10 years at Ventura College. And, that's why we won all those championships. And Riverside has a great history like Ventura. I mean, great athletic history. When I went there, you had, every coach at Riverside City College that coached basketball is in the Hall of Fame. Everyone that's coached there is in the Hall of Fame. You can't say that about many junior colleges. Riverside is the community and just the athletic programs there, have Hall of Fame coaches. And for me to come back there and to follow in the footsteps of Tarkanian, Mulligan, Waxman, Schermerhorn, even John Smith, who's in the Hall of Fame, every coach that coached there's in the Hall of Fame. So, it wasn't that much difference from Riverside and Ventura because both of them are great athletically.
Yeah, let's talk about that community a little bit because you hear that from every single head coach, from every single alumni that there's no place like Riverside, and not only Riverside City College, but the community. What's the community meant to you growing up, and how has it affected your players moving forward? Being entrenched in that type of environment and eventually moving on. How has that helped them, you think?
Well, in Riverside, when I played there, the Tiger backers were very essential into our development. I mean, the hamburger feeds from them supporting us at games, just helping us, and that community. Back in the day, Nico, most of the players, when you were from Riverside and a player in Riverside, you didn't go to San Bernardino, you didn't go to Pasadena. You came to Riverside City College. That's the difference between where it is now. You have the option of going anywhere in the state now, but in the community of Riverside, if you were good and had to go to junior college, you came to Riverside, and people recruited you, but you knew that if you from Riverside Poly, Riverside North, Northern Vista, Ramona, and you were good, you better come to Riverside, or the community will let you know about it. So, it was just that way because of the high school connections. Riverside Poly, Ramona, those are very tight knit communities, and the people in the community, the business of the community, they all supported Riverside Athletics. So, if that set us apart from other junior colleges. That's why we had so many great coaches that came to Riverside because of the community.
And I think, community is obviously a huge factor when you're looking at, going to a school, but the nature of basketball nowadays, you have so many different options. I mean, you can, out of high school, you don't even have to play your senior year. You can go and play AAU ball. You can go and play travel balls, all these travel ball programs. You can go and transfer to a 4-year and try to walk on. You can go to a 2-year and try to walk on. How has the game changed in terms of recruiting, in terms of trying to get kids to RCC? Is it more challenging nowadays? Do you kind of stick to your roots of how you were doing it, when you first started coaching? How has that world evolved, and how have you and your coaching staff adapted to this very fluid world of amateur basketball in a sense?
Well, back when I went to Ventura, there wasn't much AAU basketball. You had your teams, but there wasn't Prop 48 at the time. If you didn't have the grades or the test score, you came to junior college. Wasn't prep schools. So that's why the junior colleges were so great. At Riverside City College, if we didn't have the test score or the grades, we came to Riverside. And that old Eastern Conference, nowadays in the conference, you maybe have 1 or 2, maybe 3 Division I players. Back at the Ventura and Riverside days, the last place team had 3 Division I players. So, Ventura and Riverside used to lock horns every year for the right to go to the Elite 8. That's how great the programs were. I remember one year, Nico, that we played Riverside in a tournament at the Riverside Holiday Tournament. It was us and Riverside, Ventura and Riverside in the finals. And on the floor at that time, you had 10 Division I players. And it's not like that now because of the prep schools. Kids think, well, I'll go to prep and save a year and then end up back in junior college anyway, because that's where they went. That's where they should have went in the first place. So that's the biggest change, is that the prep schools came into being, AAU came into being. That's why you see attendance down because of all those things that are happening.
And you talked about the way that basketball is changing. What about the player? Obviously, the game has changed. I mean, the 3-point line is more prevalent than ever. Big men aren't necessarily a necessity in order to win. It's a lot of high flying offense and minimal defense. How's the player changed, and have you adapted to that type of style, or are you still honing in on a specific player that you want to build your team around, or a type of player that you want a team around?
Well, the players are more talented now. They're more skilled. They're quicker, they're faster, they jump higher. But you're still looking for the most talented players, and you have to adapt as a coach. Back before the 3-point line, back when there wasn't a 30-second clock, you had to adapt. Before in the Ventura days, you could have a guy that couldn't shoot, but he's a great athlete, and there was no shot clock, no 3-point line, so you could adapt to that. You could use that. You could play great defense and press and do those things now. But now, if you can't shoot, Nico, you can't play. No matter, unless you're 6'9" on shot blocker. You can be a non-athlete, but if you can put the ball in the basket, that's a skill that's hard to teach. So I think the biggest difference from then until now is the skill level, the shooting level. If you can shoot, there's a place for you in basketball. If you can't shoot, that's going to be a problem for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can see it too. I mean, we've had players roll through RCC that get it done that can't shoot, but those elite players who move on and go to a 4-year university, they can shoot, they can light it up. And speaking, you used to be a 4-year coach. I mean, you're at UCLA, USF, UC Irvine, Nebraska, Cal State Fullerton. I mean, you've had experience at the 4-year level. What's the biggest difference between the 2-year level and the 4-year level? Is it just that skill you could shoot, or is there much more to the cutoff between being a elite 2-year athlete and an elite 4-year athlete on the hardwood?
Well, at the different places, when I was at USF, you're always looking for, that mid-level Division I player, that could help you win in your conference, and we got enough of them. And then when you went to the elite level, the Power 5 conferences like the Nebraska and UCLA, you're only going to recruit the elite of the elite. When I was at the UCLA, we only recruited top 50 players in the country. So my job was easy. I mean, if you want a top 50 player, I mean, I wasn't looking at you. But if I'm at UC Irvine, then I'm looking for that diamond in the rough. I'm looking for that kid that's going to grow, that's going to be a better player in 4 years. I'm looking for that 4-year player. At UCLA, I'm looking for a one and done. I'm looking for no more than 2. I mean, he's a pro. And coming from a 2-year level, it all depends. Most JC players now are probably high Division II players. We've had a couple Division I guys, but most of our guys have been high level Division II players because of the prep schools. The JC players that are Division I that we get are probably bounce backs, from the 4-year level, trying to go to another Division I level that we get. But it's even harder if you're a junior college athlete to get a 4-year scholarship. I don't care if it's NAIA, 4-year, because you still have to be able to play for somebody to spend money on you.
Without a doubt. Yeah, talk about your experience at those high level schools and the mid level schools. Obviously, you mentioned Power 5, UCLA, Nebraska. What was it like coaching at that level, and why'd you leave? Why'd you come to the 2-year?
Well, when I was at Ventura, I was there 10 years. We had great success, and the time came, and if I was going to leave, it was going to be for a Division I head coaching job. I wasn't going to be an assistant leaving Ventura. We had a niche there. We had a run going that was unbelievable. We had players coming in. But when USF called, to be the head coach at Division I school, then, as a coach, you want to test yourself at that level. So, we left and went to San Francisco, had a good run, 9-year run. at the mid-major level, you try to recruit. You have to go watch players that UCLA are watching, Nebraska's watching, but you didn't have that opportunity to get those players. So you had to get players that's going to fit what you had in your league. And our league was Gonzaga, so that was a different deal at that time. But but when you get to the next level, it's money, facilities, just everything is different. From the training table to medical facilities to travel. Travel's big. At Nebraska, when I went recruiting, I took a private jet. Every flight was a private jet. So, that's the level. That's what kids see. Mm-hmm. All kids want to say, I want to go Division I, but all Division I's are not equal. Sure. The Power 5 conferences, that's equal.
Mm-hmm. And I would be hard pressed to say, you could somewhat apply that to the 2-year level as well. I mean, not all 2 years are equal. I mean, some gyms are better than others. Some training facilities are better than others. We have one of the nicer gyms, in the state, in my opinion, that I've seen at least. But, our athletic training room isn't up to par. I mean, our weight room is, average, and that's, just being very honest. When you have kids that come and visit campus and they see those things and then they realize, maybe this isn't, the nicest facility, what do you say to them in order for them to decide to come to RCC versus maybe a 2-year that has some more funding when it comes to those aesthetically pleasing type things?
Well, what we try to preach is first of all, you're coming here to get an education. And our education is outreach is just unbelievable. From not many schools have what we have. We have the educational facility downstairs where the athletes are given priority. A lot of schools, they're not given priority. We get priority from the academic standpoint. That's where we come from, the academic standpoint. Then we go to look, the community support is going to be unbelievable in Riverside. Riverside City College athletics are like UCR athletics. We're right there, as far as support. And then we get into the basketball. Then you get into the history. You tell them, every coach here has been a Hall of Fame coach. We have a winning tradition here. So, that's what you try to sell when you go look at our weight room and you go look at some of the other things that we don't have. Kids will say, okay, I can fix the weight room deal, but, I'm coming for the academics, the educational opportunities at Riverside, the study tables that they have, so, I think Riverside has far more things to offer than we don't when it comes down to facilities like weight room and things like that.
Yeah, the Athletic Learning Center has been fantastic. I mean, student athlete, I had to figure it out by myself. If you weren't prepared and you didn't prepare yourself, you weren't proactive, then you were going to fall behind. And it's nice that you have Lauren and Jackie down there and the ALC that's going to help you, guide you through your educational journey.
Like even now, during this pandemic, they're available for our student athletes. I mean, you don't have, a lot of JCs don't have that. I mean, they're I mean, for the spring semester, our guys are all done already online, because Jackie and Lauren have done a great job doing that. So, everybody wants to get to the next level, but you can't get to the next level if you don't have the academics, and that's what I think. They see people get out of Riverside. They see people going to, and it may not be Division I schools, but they're going to school. And that's very important to athletes. Can I go play at a 4-year school?
Yeah. And, that has to be, one of the best parts of your job is when these kids do what they have to do. And some of these kids don't come from, a privileged background. Some of them have families they need to support. Some of them, have had some missteps in their life. When you see these kids transfer to four-year universities and do what they need to do in order to get to that next level, how does that make you feel as a mentor and as a head coach?
Very satisfying, and you're absolutely right. We have kids that come from that don't have privileged backgrounds. Some of these kids are the first ones in their families to go to college, and they have struggles and issues. But when they overcome those struggles and issues, to go to the next level for an opportunity to play and to graduate, we had a kid, Justin Motley, who came from a background that was, that wasn't very good. But, he came back here after he left and came back here. He figured out, Riverside was the best place for me. He came back now. He's in school in Nebraska, doing well. So, when you get those kind of stories, it was very satisfying.
He's a prime example. I mean, I remember him. It was my first year here when I got hired. It was, I saw this, nearly 7-foot kid walk in the gym, and then all of a sudden he was gone. But then 2 years later, he comes back, he gets his mind right, and he's the, perfect example of doing what you have to do in order to.
Exactly.
So, all right, Phil, I have one more question for you, and, we'll leave it at this one. It's a crazy time right now. Obviously, we're going through a pandemic. Social injustice everywhere. We just went through an election. California was on fire. There's a lot that these kids need to deal with. What is a piece of advice that you could hand down to these student athletes moving forward? And how have you kept your student athletes focused on the ultimate goal of transfer and, being the best student and student athlete they can be?
Well, Nico, in my program and everywhere I've been, we've always talked about social justice, racial justice, and one of my things is, I tell my guys, you treat everybody how you want to be treated. We have no color lines in our programs. We treat everybody the right way. And in these times, I think our guys from Riverside City College understand that. I think that's why you can see them go to different places. You can see a Justin Motley go to a small school in Nebraska that has probably 3% diversity, but he's not that kind of kid. He's going to treat everybody the same. And in these times, I think that's very important. As far as, right now, to be an athlete, especially a junior college athlete, trying to get recruited, it's going to be tough. 4-year college coaches aren't going to, go on tape. They want to come see you play. So some of the things that the NCAA and what is it, AAA is trying to do by giving these kids a year back is going to help them. But I just tell our guys, we Zoom on our guys twice a week. Our assistant coach, Tommy Denson, gives them workout plans, and they've been doing it. We stay in contact, but I think for them, it's tough for them right now. We have 5 sophomores coming back who are going to be pretty good, who are going to get recruited. And now they're stuck in limbo, wondering what they're going to do, so, but I just think my recommendation to them is keep to the task at hand, keep going to school academically, keep working on your game, keep grinding, because it's not going to be here forever. We're going to get a vaccine and get ready for next year, which I think will be in September. I don't think we're going to play this year. Yeah,
well, whenever we get back to play, Phil, I'm looking forward to seeing seeing you obviously and your whole coaching staff and the players. You know, I want to thank you. You've been a huge mentor to me since, you know, I stepped on campus, and I really appreciate that. I miss hanging out. I miss, you know, being on the gym floor with you guys, and you know, I look forward to the next time we get to do that. So again, I appreciate you, everybody. This is the 7th episode of the Den Discussions featuring head coach and Hall of Famer Phil Mathews. Again, appreciate what you do, and look forward to seeing you again soon, Phil.
Thank you, Nico.
All right, take care.
All right, man.